It's time for the Week 2 Crush Charch Challenge on grainbelt.com. Paul, who do you have this week?
Well, before I even get into all the players, Mike, let's just talk a little bit about the game for anybody who's not familiar, although we've been running this game for now 7 years, I think. The Crush Charch Challenge is available at grainbelt.com. You pick any lineup you want against my lineup. Every point by which your lineup beats my lineup gives you one entry into our end-of-week drawing. If we choose you as and one of your entries as ultimately our weekly winner, you get to go to the end-of-season banquet at Manny's and a chance for a $2,000 grand prize. It's totally free to play. Go to grainbelt.com. Crush Charch Challenge. Here's the lineup you're going to be playing against in Week 2, beginning at the quarterback position. Drew Brees going up against Cleveland. Cleveland's secondary got carved up last week by Ben Roethlisberger, and Drew Brees, obviously, better quarterback than Ben Roethlisberger, like his chances for a very big game. Peyton Manning's always an easy one, goes up against Kansas City. They struggled to handle Jake Locker last week. I like Peyton Manning a little better than I like Jake Locker, although I do like Jake Locker this week a lot too. So Peyton Manning is my quarterback. So we'll go with Brees and Manning. Those are obvious choices, I believe.
And Marshawn Lynch, you really can't go wrong with him, a running back either.
You know, he's pretty safe. Yeah, we know what we're going to get out of Marshawn Lynch, and it's usually something pretty good. Goes up against San Diego. San Diego's actually a pretty good run defense, and it's not going to be the easiest opponent. But here's the thing about Marshawn Lynch. It doesn't matter who he plays. Marshawn Lynch gives you the 100 yards and somewhere between half a touchdown and a touchdown and a half, 2 touchdowns every week. He's the one guy that he seems impervious to the matchup. So start Marshawn Lynch with some confidence. Montee Ball didn't look fantastic last week, but he also didn't leave a lot of yards on the table. Offensive line didn't block for him very well. Goes up against Kansas City. Not a big believer in the Kansas City run defense. And so I'm going to try Montee Ball again. I just feel like, this is a great offense they've got in Denver, and Montee Ball's always going to have his chances. My third running back, Jamaal Charles, goes up against Denver, and flip it over to the other side of this one. And for Jamaal Charles, just the 7 carries last week, and head coach Andy Reid came out and said, look, we have to get more use for him, and they absolutely do. They criminally underused him last week. I think they go the other way this week. You see this a lot in football, where if they clearly made a mistake on underuse one week, they go the other direction. I think that happens here, and Jamaal Charles gets a lot of carries. And then lastly, another guy who kind of underperformed in Week 1, LeSean McCoy, but he goes up against Indy. The Indy defense looked pretty bad last week. We're better against the run than I thought they were going to be, but nevertheless, this is still an elite-level running back in LeSean McCoy through the air. And I should mention, new this year, it's a point per reception in the Crush Charch Challenge, and LeSean McCoy is always super valuable that way.
And in your wide receiver group, a big play group, starting with A.J. Green in a game that should just have passes flying everywhere.
Absolutely. Look what happened to the Atlanta secondary in Week 1, and now A.J. Green draws that same secondary. This is not a great unit, and A.J. Green is sitting on a very big game. My second wide receiver is probably the most obvious after the big Monday nighter. Calvin Johnson goes up against Carolina. Carolina's a good secondary. Don't care. It's Calvin Johnson. He might be in my lineup every week. My third wide receiver is Percy Harvin. I like Percy Harvin most weeks, and I love what he can give you on the ground as well, and those points count in this game. So we'll continue to try Percy Harvin as we're really seeing that Seahawk offense start to galvanize around what Percy Harvin can do as a change of pace guy. And then here's my flyer. Kendall Wright going up against Dallas. I mentioned earlier Jake Locker as a guy who came off a good Week 1. Kendall Wright had a big Week 1 too. For a guy who only scored 2 touchdowns all of last year, he got 1 in Week 1 right off the bat, and now he gets the worst defense in the NFL, the Dallas Cowboys. So Kendall Wright, my sneaky wide receiver play.
He's a name that's kind of always there.
Yeah.
Jimmy Graham, of course, he's just kind of staying there.
Pencil him in every week, right? It's Cleveland, not that the opponent really matters. I would have liked to have seen a little more from Jimmy Graham last week, but we still got 8 receptions and 83 yards. That's not bad. Just didn't get the 3 touchdowns that Julius Thomas ended up getting. And then we'll go Rob Gronkowski against the Vikings. The Vikings have had trouble against tight ends for now 3+ years. This is still a linebacker group that's in a lot of flux. We'll see what Rob Gronkowski can do. You could certainly make a case, Mike, to just put in Julius Thomas based on what he did last week. And he's a great player, and any week could be a multiple touchdown week for him. But I'm already heavily invested in a lot of Broncos elsewhere in the Crush Charch Challenge. So I'm going to try Gronkowski here, I think.
In the kicker group, a name we introduced you to last week, Cody Parkey from the Eagles going against the Colts.
Yeah, and Parkey gave you a good game. 4 extra points and a couple of decent, fairly long field goals last week. And so we'll go back to Cody Parkey in a high-scoring game with the Colts. And then I'm taking Blair Walsh as a player. Just love the leg that he brings, and I'm pretty optimistic about the continued success of the Vikings offense. And Miami was able to carve up the Patriots last week, so you feel like anything's possible.
So there you go. The challenge has been issued. Week 2, the Crush Charch Challenge. Get to grainbelt.com and play it right now.